Greetings, everyone. This is John Katuris, Greek-American journalist, and I am coming to you live from Los Angeles. Today is the 29th of September, 2017. The time here is 7:25 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So this show is being broadcasted for the Great Patriot Radio Network, UCY.TV, that is UCY.TV. Please check out their website, and there you can follow them on a daily basis, 24/7. They have some of the best speakers out there from many different vocational fields that are exposing government corruption, that are exposing the New World Order and its plans for humanity, and so much more, ladies and gentlemen. So I'd like to thank UCY.TV again for this opportunity to speak on this great network. And by the way, it's got a lot of great speakers too, and you can check that out by just, going over to the website. And we could do that right now for my YouTube listeners. So as you can see here, UCY.TV. And all you got to do is just go to the menu there, home, schedule, shows, etc., etc., etc. This show here is being broadcasted for Saturday, okay? It's going to be rebroadcasted this Saturday, the 30th, at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Okay? So all you got to do is go to the website, UCY.TV, and there you have it. Okay? And the name of the show is Greek News on Demand. Greek News on Demand, which is patterned after my news website, GreekNewsOnDemand.com. That is one word, GreekNewsOnDemand.com. Okay, here it is on your screens for the YouTube audience. So, I got a lot to go over right now with regards to the Greek economic crisis, the never-ending Greek economic crisis, which every year, every month, every day practically, takes new twists and spins, okay? And as I've told you so many times before, this is all being done at the behest, ladies and gentlemen, of the powers that be that want to introduce into the world, no, not a righteous, let's say, for example, Christian society, but a New World Order based on the so-called principles of the European Enlightenment, which in the past 100 years have been expressed through the great, quote-unquote, movement of the New Age. End of story. The reason why, ladies and gentlemen, people started leaving the churches in the 60s is because of the New Age. The reason why you have so many people, Christians, that are leaving Christianity and basically, espousing other religions, okay, is because of the New Age. By the way, you can find me on Facebook. Here I am, John Katuris, okay? So, in the case of Greece, let's just say, for example, all right, Greece has been heavily influenced by the New World Order. That is a fact. It's been going on for about 40 years. Yeah, just about 40 years. Up until about the fall of the junta, the military junta in 1974, Greece pretty much was a conservative Christian society. You did have problems with communism. For decades, it had already been a ever, pestering sore that from time to time would rear its ugly head. And during World War II and a few years after World War II, there was a civil war that took place in Greece, and unfortunately a lot of people were killed. A civil war that took place between the royalists and the communists. Okay? So, but up until about 40 years ago, Greece was a very powerful Christian nation, okay? Had the best economic growth rate out there, second to Japan, actually. It was forming good relations with the Nixon government. Spiro Agnew, the then vice president of Nixon, who has Greek heritage, went to Greece to visit George Papadopoulos, the junta leader, and to form better relations between Washington and Athens. Okay? So, now what you have is this, unfortunate phenomenon in Greek society where in the past several decades you have Greeks leaving the church and are adhering to a lot of New Age stuff. Okay? Particularly things like Eastern mysticism, yoga, things of that sort, okay? Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, I do yoga, but, I just do the stretching part. I don't do the whole prayer thing. Well, I hope you don't, because if you do the prayer thing, and I've researched this, starting 20 years ago, I started researching Eastern mysticism. I wrote a huge paper on this in college, okay? All you got to do is look at it. It's full of unbelievably weird shit and sexual deviancy and all kinds of crap. Buddhism is based on Hinduism. Just look at it. Okay? The Bodhisattva and the Messiah of Buddhism is nothing more than Jesus Christ. They borrowed everything from Christianity. All the nations of the world borrowed everything, by the way. All the religions borrowed everything from Christianity, including Judaism. Now you're going to say, well, wait a minute. Wasn't Moses before Jesus? Yeah, but wait a minute. Isn't the Old Testament full of prophecies about the coming of Jesus Christ? Not only that, the ancient Greeks, thousands of years before Moses, predicted and prophesied the coming of the God-man into the world. And I explained that in my 2 books that I've published on this issue. The first one is Your Academic Guide to the Greek Language, Culture, and Civilization. Okay, by John Contouris. And the second one is Hellenic Crisis, as I will explain to you in the following clip, where I delve a little bit into the Greek economic crisis. And once the clip is over, what I'm going to do then is close off the show, and then what I'm going to do is just give you a little briefing on what's going on in Greece now in the last, let's say, six months, basically, to 3 months. I'm going to give you an up-to-date overall view about what's been taking place in Greece recently. Are things getting better there with the economic crisis? What's going on between Washington and Athens? Alexis Tsipras, the Greek Prime Minister, is about to visit Washington. I'm going to give you insight as to why he's going to visit Washington, which is going to blow your mind. But what I'm trying to tell you is that in Greek society, ladies and gentlemen, we never tolerated all the stuff that's happening in Western society today. Okay? And the reason why the New World Order wants to get rid of Greece is because Greece is still the bastion of truth, hope, and freedom for the whole world. The whole world, at least the Western world, is based on the Greeks. There would be no Western world if it was not for the Greeks. The reason why the world was Christianized and civilized is because the Greeks, because the great Greek Christian Byzantine Empire. So, when Greeks or Russian Orthodox or Romanian Orthodox or whoever, or African Orthodox, I don't know, you name it, all right? Or how about just Christian people in general? Whoever they are, wherever they come from, okay? Maybe they're Protestant, maybe they're Catholic. So, obviously the Greek Orthodox faith is the most purest form of Christianity, okay? We Orthodox don't make any bones about it, okay? It is. And I explained that in my books, by the way. Please read them. With all due respect to my Catholic and Protestant friends out there. But it's like, and nowadays, when a parent sees their child come home and start talking about all this crap that they're being taught in the schools, which is contrary to their Christian faith, and they go crazy, it's like, this is now the new norm, unfortunately. Okay? Well, when I do yoga, I just focus on the stretching and this and that. Well, gee, I hope so. Because when you get involved in it deeply, okay, especially the religious aspect, and you start doing the chants like Om and things of that sort, that's an incantation to a demon. I hope you know that. Yes, that's what the Buddhists believe in. Okay? It's based off of Hinduism. Okay? 20 frickin' years ago, I did an extensive research paper on this in college. So, my point is here. The New World Order is here. It's here to reintroduce our way of life. It's affecting everyone. It's affected all of America for 100 years now. It's affected Greece, which is one of the very last real Christian nations upon the face of the earth. And don't tell me America's a Christian nation. Because if it was, we wouldn't be approving of all these wars that have been taking place, number one, with the death of millions and millions of people. Okay, and the Christians that sit there and support that, they're not Christians. I don't know what the hell they are. And I used to get caught up in that Protestant movement too when I was younger, but thank God I've returned to my Greek Orthodox roots. So this broadcast is just to wake up people. It's not to judge you, quote unquote. It's to wake you up to what's really going on out there. And the whole focus here of Greek News on Demand is Greece. Why? Because Greece is the focus of the whole world. The reason why the New World Order, and I've told you this many times, started in the first place is because of Greece. It's because of the great Christian Greek Empire when it fell in 1453. Read my book, Your Academic Guide to the Greek Language, Culture, and Civilization by John Kountouras. You can find that on Amazon Kindle or on Smashwords.com. It will be soon in a printed version. Hopefully, God willing. So, when Greece fell, when the great Greek Christian Empire fell, all of Europe fell into darkness. Thus the European Enlightenment, years after that, the onset of Marxism, the revolutions that took place around the world, the French Revolution, the Greek Revolution, which were all inspired by the satanic, Masonic, Judaistic forces that unfortunately pull the strings of authority, of power today around the world. Okay? So, let's get into the first clip and then I'm just going to close it out real quick. Again, this is John Kountouras with Greek News on Demand, and you're listening to this on the UCY.TV Patriot Radio Network. Let's go to that clip. And please visit our website, GreekNewsOnDemand.com. GreekNewsOnDemand.com. We have an English.
Greetings, everyone. My name is John Kountouras. I am a Greek-American journalist. I live in Los Angeles. I appear on Greek TV both here in the United States and in Greece. I also appear on Greek radio, particularly on the network Chelas FM out of New York. It is the biggest Greek radio network worldwide. I also write for a Greek mainstream news newspaper in Greece. It's called Eleftheri Hora, meaning the free hour. I also have my own Greek news blog, which I'm going to show you basically on the screen right now, and that is GreekNewsOnDemand.com. Okay, that is one word, GreekNewsOnDemand.com. This blog, ladies and gentlemen, was formed several years ago by me and some of my colleagues in Greece, who are some very reputable and credible journalists. And we did it in order to basically get real information out there about what's really going on with Greece, particularly with regards to the 8-year-long Greek economic crisis. So if you're an English reader, you can go to our two special English sections here, as you see on the screen. We also post a lot in English in the main feed. But we do, though, post mostly in Greek. But you will see, though, in our main feed, a lot of articles, of course, that are published in English. We are just a straight news blog, and we publish the biggest bombshell news items of the day. with regards to both Greece and, of course, the world political scene, and, of course, how it affects Greece. Okay? And as we all know, the U.S. government affects a lot of countries out there, including Greece. And this is something that I want to touch on really quick. And it has to do basically with some major court cases that have been underway for years now. Some drawn-out court cases, ladies and gentlemen, that have to do with the direct involvement of the CIA in the Greek political scene for decades. Now, for those that want to learn more about me, again, my name is John Contreras. Here's my personal landing page, johncontreras.com. Here you'll learn more about me. You can also check out my 2 books here. The first one is Your Academic Guide to the Greek Language, Culture, and Civilization. And the second one is Hellenic Crisis. So, the first one, basically, they're both sold on Amazon Kindle. And the first one basically goes over the greatness of the Greek language, the Greek culture, and, of course, the glory of ancient Greece, and, of course, the Greek Christian Byzantine Empire, which scholars call Byzantium, okay, which lasted over 1,000 years and which is the greatest empire ever upon the face of the earth. And it was Christian, and it Christianized the world. It was a moral-preserving force around the world, and, of course, it was actually the Byzantine Empire that created the first phase of the European Enlightenment, which was basically based on Greek culture, art. It was based on the Greek Christian faith. And when, of course, the Byzantine Empire fell, it fell into the hands, basically, of the then proto-form of the New World Order, meaning the black nobility from Venice. And they veered it and took it their way. And, they began to veer this European Enlightenment away from its Christian roots, and they began to secularize it and revive ancient, basically cults from the Gnostic period around 300 BC after Christ. This led, of course, to the formation of basically the New World Order. It led, of course, to the revival of the occult with regards to New World Order, and of course it was the very powerful Zionist Jewish influence upon, of course, the Venetian Empire, and upon, of course, the Illuminati itself, which basically, of course, are the forces that control the world today. They are the forces that, of course, helped the Ottoman Turks overthrow the Greek Christian Byzantine Empire, and so on and so forth. So if you get this book, you'll learn all that. We have all the facts from the best scholarly sources. You will learn, of course, the mysteries of the Greek language, how to learn ancient Greek. You will learn, basically, that the real chosen people of God are not the Jews, but they are the Greeks. It was the Greeks that founded all of Western civilization, and that it was the Jews and basically the Arabs and many other cultures that stole everything from the Greeks. So that is Your Academic Guide to the Greek Language, Culture, and Civilization. So basically, the second book can also be found on Amazon and also Smashwords.com, and that is Hellenic Crisis, a crisis of conspiracy against the Greek people. So this book basically picks up where the last book left off, and it focuses more so on the last 8 years of this ever ongoing Greek economic crisis, which of course was basically completely made up, fabricated. The Greeks didn't owe and still do not owe 400 billion in euro. The Greeks, this whole so-called crisis is not a result of the Greeks not paying their taxes and being lazy and retiring at freaking 40 years old or whatever. It has to do, ladies and gentlemen, with the fact that the New World Order does not want a strong and powerful Christian nation again ruling the world like the Greeks did for over 1,000 years during, the Greek Christian Byzantine Empire. They don't want to see that again. To them, that's a major threat because the New World Order involves a complete obliteration of Christianity off of the face of the earth. Okay, so that's why I wrote these two books. Now, Hellenic Crisis focuses on the Greek economic crisis, and the Greek economic crisis, like I said, has nothing to do with the aforementioned. It has to do with the fact that, the Greeks must be destroyed. Their Greek Christian Orthodox faith must be eradicated from the face of the earth. It is the Greek Christian Orthodox faith, ladies and gentlemen, that is the true faith that evangelized and Christianized all the nations for over 1,000 years, including the Russians, the Germans, and so on and so forth. Okay? It was us Greeks that were the moral preserving force in the world. Okay? And that offered a lot of good. Of course, we had the split with the Catholic Church in 1054 AD for obvious reasons. The Catholics wanted to go their own way and promote the supremacy of the Pope, which, of course, created major friction of the Church because there's supposed to be 5 bishops of equal importance, not one bishop who basically, controls everyone and tells them what to do and speaks ex cathedra out of the chair as if he's God himself. That's insane. So, the Greek economic crisis has to do with a conspiracy against the Greek people. Not only against their finances, but against them, their way of life, their religion, their cultural values, everything. Again, the forces that control this world do not want a powerful, strong Greece, ladies and gentlemen, controlling the world again. Okay, that's precisely the reason why the United States, Great Britain, worked together with the Ottoman Turks back in the turn of the century and on to create the Christian genocides, particularly the Greek and Armenian genocides, something which the Congress does not want to recognize. They only recognize the so-called Jewish Holocaust, so on and quote-unquote, which is nothing more than a farce. The real Holocaust that took place, ladies and gentlemen, over the years were those of many different Christian populations. And in 1922, the Ottoman Turks, like I said before, with the blessing, basically, of Great Britain and the United States, basically invaded the city of Smyrna, which is a great, prosperous, thriving city full of Greeks, Armenians, and other Christian peoples. And, basically, the United States and Great Britain gave the green light to the Turks to basically start the butchering, slaughtering all these Christian people, and to destroy their beautiful, wonderful, amazing city, which is one of the greatest trade cities around the world. It is one of the most prosperous cities around the world, and so on and so forth. Okay, why? Because Great Britain and the United States have major oil interests in that area, and they needed the Turks, basically, cooperation in order to exploit all that. And this information can be found in my book, as you're reading on your screen right here. Okay? It can also be found in the book Destruction of a City, 1922, by Marie Dobkin. Destruction of a City, 1922, by Marie Dobkin. It is a decades-long research done by this prominent Armenian lady professor, and it's an award-winning book, and it has all the facts in it. And it talks about how the United States, basically Great Britain, helped the Turks to destroy these Christian populations in Turkey, basically. And Smyrna, by the way, was a very, very ancient Greek city, one of the most powerful ancient Greek cities that ever existed. And of course, today it's been run over by the Turks, unfortunately. So, the Greek economic crisis itself, okay? Like I said, the Greek crisis is really the phrase that we should use. The news media has used the Greek economic crisis to describe what's going on in Greece for 8 years, but really it should just be the Greek crisis in general because, like I said, the crisis takes on many different forms. And it's being done by the powers that be to do away with the Greek people and, of course, to steal their natural resources. So, with regards to the Greek economic crisis itself, Greece has trillions and trillions of dollars worth of petroleum, methane gas, gold, and other precious minerals in its subsoil and in the bottom of its ocean. And I have spoken with many prominent journalists and scientists who verified this to me, particularly Dr. Anthony Foskolos, who's a prominent Greek professor from the University of Canada, I believe, but you can find him on the Canadian Geological Survey, Anthony Foskolos, who verified to me personally on the telephone that, Greece has trillions of dollars in its subsoil, according to his research. And many other companies have done basically research on this issue, and it's been verified over and over again in both the Greek media and in the American media and in the foreign media in general. So, the powers that be want all this, so they had to basically come up with an excuse to enslave Greece. Okay? So what they did was they got this guy, his name is Andreas Georgiou. Okay? And this is back in 2009. Okay? They got this guy who was a top official of the IMF, of the International Monetary Fund, okay, to become basically the head of the Greek statistical agency called Elstat, okay? Why? Because his job was to basically conjure up this Greek crisis, okay, by cooking the books, so to speak. So this guy worked together with the then Greek Prime Minister, George Papandreou, who took over the leadership in late October of 2009, 8 years ago. And George Papandreou, this gentleman, as well as other key political figures in Greece, like the then Greek finance minister, George Papakonstantinou, altogether forged up this plan by which to get Greece under the control of the IMF. Okay? Now, for the past 8 years, many articles have been written about the Greek economic crisis. Okay? By, major news media figures, major well-known columnists of many different newspapers. This subject has been covered extensively by, let's say, for example, top economic professors of major universities all over the world, let's say. The Greek economic crisis has basically been at the forefront of newsworthy items, okay, for about 8 years, okay? It's been a major story for about 8 years. And all you got to do is just type in Greek crisis or Greek economic crisis and you'll see what I mean. So, but none of these people has ever really dealt with what really went on. And they still haven't. Neither has the U.S. government, okay, which plays, by the way, a major role in this, as I will describe a little bit later. So, you have at least these three major Greek political figures, okay, back in 2009, late 2009, George Papandreou, the Greek Prime Minister, Andreas Papageorgiou, the head of the Greek Statistical Agency, okay, and also George Papakonstantinou, the then Finance Minister of Greece, okay, start forging a plan, basically, and I'm speaking in general terms here, but this is really what went on, by which to cook Greece's books, which would serve as a pretext by which they would basically fall under the control of the Troika. They needed a pretext, in other words. So, we journalists and activists in the 9/11 Truth Movement, okay, we like to use this term false flag. What does that mean? It just basically describes a fake terrorist attack, which the countries of NATO do, like, 9/11 and all these so-called terrorist bombings and terrorist shootings, quote-unquote, all right, which they blame on terrorists, but really it was them that did it, all right? So the term false flag basically means it's a fake attack, it's a false attack, okay? They basically, the powers that be do them, but they have to use their patsies, okay? So, when they do a false flag attack, okay, they don't just use, in other words, terrorism, let's say, for example. They use different forms, let's just say, of terrorism. They can use economic terrorism. Let's put it that way. So in the case of Greece, they used economic terrorism, and they're still using it. So, for example, today, because of this false flag, fake economic attack on Greece, the Greek people have been terrorized for many years by having to undergo major salary cuts, pension cuts, and so on and so forth. Okay? Many Greeks have starved as a result of this crisis. At least 10,000 have committed suicide as a result of this crisis. Many bondholders in Greece have undergone a cut in the value of their bonds so that the Greek government can basically gather up some money to basically pay its installment payments on the loans that they owe to the Troika, okay? And so on and so forth, all right? And above all, the Greek people have been deprived of their national sovereignty due to this bailout program, which is called the Memorandum. Okay, if you Google that, Greek crisis, Memorandum, you'll see what I mean. Or just read my book, Hellenic Crisis, and you'll see what I mean. Okay? So, the powers that be, meaning the International Monetary Fund and the United States government of Barack Hussein Insane Obama, okay, work together with these three aforementioned political figures to develop a plan by which to basically terrorize Greece economically. So, Mr. Andreas Papageorgiou, who is the head of Elstat, the Greek statistical agency which keeps the economic books, the accounting books of the Greek state, tells his employees to begin to fudge the numbers, meaning to blow up both the national debt and, of course, the deficit. Now, as we know, the two major financial figures of a nation are both its national debt, its deficit, and, of course, the gross national product. So, that's exactly what took place in the case of Greece. These staff members of Elstat were told to blow up the Greek debt so it would be around 400 billion. They were also told to blow up the deficit to about 15.4%, okay, to gross national product, which, when in reality, it was only about 4 to 5%, okay? Meaning, and for those who know how the finances of EU member nations work, meaning Greece was just fine, okay, from a financial standpoint, meaning they were meeting all the Maastricht requirements of the European Union with regards to keeping an orderly financial situation, and so on and so forth. In order to remain in the Eurozone. That's what I need to point out here. In the Eurozone and to maintain the Euro, okay? And this has all been verified by these very same Greek financial figures, okay? These employees of the Greek statistical agency, Elstat. Okay? Two very prominent figures have bring all this to light, okay? In recent years. One is Mrs. Zoe Georganda. Bear with the names now, Zoe Georganda. And the other one is Mr. Nikos, or you can call him Nico, Logothetis, okay? So, these people, along with other staff members of Elstat, were basically coerced to fudge the numbers. So right around the end of 2010, all of this was used, basically, as a pretext by which to enslave the Greek people, okay? And to enforce major austerity measures upon them. The first memorandum had already been signed earlier in 2010, in May of 2010, okay? Which is basically, irrevocable. The Greek government, in other words, can't mess with the terms. It is what it is. The terms are irrevocable. And not only that, the Greek people, by the way, are deprived of their national sovereignty. They forgot to tell the Greek people that part, okay? The Greek people, of course, learned that a lot later down the road. Which is not only utterly just evil and surreptitiously evil, but it's also high treason. That's why all the Greek politicians that participate in this crime should be hung in the Greek squares, particularly in front of Constitutional Square there in Athens, where all the rioting has been going on for the past 8 years, and so on and so forth. I've been there. I've I've worked for CNN, by the way, over there. That was back in December 2008, a year before this whole Greek economic crisis actually came out, by the way. Because back then, the ground was being laid. It was being prepared for all this to start taking place. Okay? Yes, you heard that correctly. This is a major, major conspiracy, ladies and gentlemen, in the making for years now. This is what I'm trying to tell you. So back then, it was December the 6th, 2008. A young boy is killed, basically, in the street of Athens, so they say. And, of course, all of Athens, and of course all of Greece for that matter, learns of this, and they just erupt in utter anger, and they begin to riot everywhere. Okay? They begin to burn down buildings, burn up cars, just wreak havoc all over Athens. So at that time, I began to do some work for CNN as an independent journalist. We did 5 live interviews on CNN, both on TV and on their internet program. And, of course, it was a smash, and I got an opportunity to basically describe to their worldwide audience the reason why all this was happening. And that is because the death of this young boy was basically the tipping point for the Greeks' anger against the West, against America in particular. So, during those days, they had just basically, the Greeks had just basically commemorated November the 17th, which is a day of anger of the Greeks against America, particularly against Henry Kissinger and his policies against, against Greece. Okay, with regards to the Cypriot invasion to the Turkish invasion of Cyprus in 1974, in July and in August of 1974. Okay. Henry Kissinger was behind that with England. It was all forged basically to make sure that Greece would never unite with Cyprus and so on and so forth. Okay, so on November the 17th we commemorate that, along with, of course, another event that happened at that time in 1973, and that was the Greek University incident. We call it Polytechniou. Okay. In other words, at that time, it's alleged that the Greek junta, November 17th, 1973, basically invades the University of Athens and starts killing a bunch of students there, who are protesting against the junta, the Greek military junta, okay? Which, when all the smoke cleared and when the police report came out, no student was killed there. Okay? That was all a lie. It was all a farce. It was all made up. Okay, which is another story, which, by the way, I get into my book, Hellenic Crisis, so you'll be able to learn all of that there. And trust me, you won't want to put this book down. And there, of course, I described my adventure in Greece in December of 2008 with CNN and so on and so forth. So basically, I covered back then in 2008 the death of this young boy, and I described all these things to CNN. I described how the Greeks were venting their anger for the death of not only for the death of the young boy, but against America. So it was a smash. So, little did I know, though, what was really going on behind the scenes. And that was the preparation stage for what would happen in 2009. Yes, you heard that correctly. And it just so happened that I basically prophesied, to put it, for lack of a better term, on CNN, okay, that Greece was basically going into a crisis stage. That was a year before the onset of the Greek economic crisis, ladies and gentlemen. And I said that basically Greece needs the support of all the nations of the earth because the Greek people have only brought good to the world. I mean, all of Western civilization is founded on the Greeks. And I described that in my 2 books. So, what the heck? It's like, why is America, and this is what I was describing on CNN, why is America basically poking its nose in Greece's business, and in the business of many other nations for that matter? Okay? Greece has never hurt any other nation, has never invaded any other nation. We've only brought good to the world. I described the evil that Henry Kissinger did to Greece and so on and so forth. And this has all been very, very well documented, by the way, by Greek authors, Greek American authors, by major news sites, major CIA figures, staff members have given top interviews to top news websites about all of this. Okay, so and of course we have too a lot of leaked archives from the President Ford era, which show how in 1974, when the invasion of Cyprus was going on, Henry Kissinger verified all this in his communiques, of course, with then President Ford. Okay, so besides all that, I described basically to CNN what was going on at that time, and the things that I spoke were very, very, let's say, prophetic for what would take place a year later. By the way, a month prior to me doing that work for CNN, I had met in a major hotel in Athens the U.S. ambassador to Greece, Daniel Speckard. Google his name, Daniel Speckard, U.S. ambassador to Greece. Okay, I can show you that on the screen. Now, Daniel Speckard is a very interesting character. Okay, I described this all in my book, Hellenic Crisis. Why is he a very interesting character? I will tell you why. Because Mr. Daniel Speckard, ladies and gentlemen, has been exposed for his own role, major role, in the Greek economic crisis. So if you type in Daniel Speckard, Greece, right, WikiLeaks, let's see this. You're going to see a lot of stuff here. A lot of interesting stuff here from WikiLeaks. Why, look at that. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of WikiLeaks. I know that they're controlled by the Rothschilds behind the scenes. You don't need to tell me that. But I do know one thing, that I don't give that much credit to the devil, let's just say. Okay? Because there's a lot of people out there who are controlled indeed, but, they cannot, they're controlled by the forces that be, ladies and gentlemen. But, the forces that be can't control everyone. Okay? And they can't stop the truth from getting out. That's my point. Okay? So, WikiLeaks, okay, has released a lot of stuff showing how Daniel Speckard was involved in the Greek economic crisis. Okay? And I'm not going to get into that here because I don't have time. But you can check all that out there. Okay? Just type in his name and so on and so forth. So, in a nutshell, though, okay? In a nutshell, Daniel Speckard, the American ambassador to Greece, whom I met the night of the elections, November the 8th, 2008? Or what? No. What's the night of? Yeah, November the 8th, if I'm not mistaken. 2008, okay? And by the way, I told him face-to-face that basically the United States needed to stop poking its nose in Greece's, business and manipulating its political affairs and so on and so forth, and he agreed with me. To my face. He said that to my face. He said, yeah, you're absolutely right, but what can we do? This is just all has to do with political expediencies. I know, you're right. That's what he told me. So, this guy, though, he was in cahoots with George Papandreou, basically, the then Greek Prime Minister, to basically put Greece into the phase that it would enter into with the Greek economic crisis and so on and so forth. Okay? So, he also played a role in the collapse of a major Greek bank, I believe it was called Proton Bank. Okay? So there's a lot of this guy, a lot of it's been said about him in the Greek media, and then, of course, in Greek blogs. So, the three aforementioned Greek political figures that I mentioned previously, these guys basically cooked the books. They were told to by the IMF in order to basically put Greece under the control of the Troika, which is the International Monetary Fund, the European Central Bank, and the European Community, the EC. Okay? And this, of course, served as a reason to draft up, for these memorandums to be drafted up, these bailout packages between the Greek government and the Troika. All right? This has led to the enslavement of the Greek people, okay? and to their utter economic downfall, okay, in the past 8 years. Like I said, many people have lost their jobs. Unemployment is very, very high, particularly amongst the youth. Many youth are forced now to leave the country and to look for basically opportunities elsewhere. Thousands and thousands of people have committed suicide, ladies and gentlemen, and so on and so forth. My book goes over all of this, but my point is that the Greek economic crisis was basically a crime committed basically under false pretenses. In other words, these powers that be had to make all this up in order to put Greece under the control of the Troika, not only just to steal their natural resources and their wealth, which they're doing right now, by the way, by all these, by the privatizing of major Greek public assets, and that is what the IMF does. And if you read the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins, a New York Times bestseller, you'll see how all of this is done. Okay, but this is an attempt by the powers that be, the New World Order, to destroy the Greek people in general. Thus, the flooding of Greece, as well as many other European Union nations, by many illegal immigrants, of which a small percentage are Syrians, and the majority of these Syrians are Muslim, by the way, not Christian. The United States, of course, is a big ally of Turkey, and Turkey threatens Greece on a daily basis. Our arch enemy, the Turks, okay? Just think about what I'm telling you right now. The people that offered everything to Western civilization, art, science, math, culture, everything, language, okay? These people are undergoing, how can I put it, a steady ethnic cleansing on the part of the United States and the powers that be. And Trump has been in office, 8-9 months, and he hasn't done absolutely nothing to help Greece. And he's not going to, because he has to follow his marching orders from his own New World Order higher-ups, so to speak, the Rothschilds, okay? The Rothschilds have been controlling Greece from day one, ladies and gentlemen. From the time they were liberated from the Turks in 1821 up until today. They've been controlling their banking system, their political system, and so on and so forth. So, in view of all this, what should we do? We should support the Greeks. We should stop accusing them. And I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with friends and just people that are interested in this about the subject, and how many of these people thought that the whole Greek economic crisis is due to a bunch of lazy Greeks who didn't pay their bills and so on and so forth, and to government malfeasance. Yes, there's a lot of government malfeasance, okay, but there's government malfeasance everywhere else, okay? I mean, if you compare Germany's own financial situation to Greece, you would think that it would be Germany that should be under the control of the Troika, not Greece. Germany's financial situation is much worse than Greece's, okay? But they are allowed to remain in power. Just look at Merkel. She just got elected for the 4th time. What the heck? Honestly, do we really believe all this? That this is all done legally there in Germany? No. I'll tell you why she was elected for the 4th time. Because she's a faithful servant of the New World Order. Okay? Germany is a private corporation of the United States, of France, and of Great Britain. It's been that way ever since the end of World War II. Okay? They serve the West's interests. The West has propped them up in Europe in order to basically control the situation there with all these faltering countries like Greece. That's why Germany, Angela Merkel, and their finance minister Schäuble have a major say in what goes on with Greece's bailout programs with the Troika. So, in view of all this, people need to stop accusing Greece, and they need to start supporting Greece. They need to basically promote Greek products, buy Greek products. They need to get this message out. They need to read my book, my 2 books. They need to read my blog, really, is what they need to do. And I'm going to go back to that really quick. Again, we are GreekNewsOnDemand.com. We publish the biggest bombshell articles on Greece, its economic situation, its political climate there, and much, much more. If you type in the search engine here, Greek crisis, for example, you will find a bunch of articles that we have published in the past couple of years or more on this subject. Okay, all you got to do is just read all of this stuff right here. Okay? Read all these articles here. For example, the Greek crisis in summary. All right? If you read this article here, within basically 5 minutes, you'll become an expert on Greece. Okay? Read these 21 points, the Greek crisis in summary, and you'll become an expert. Okay, you can find me on Facebook. Here I am, John Contreras. I showed you also my websites and so on and so forth. This is basically GreekNewsOnDemand.com is a work that I started to get out the truth about what Greece has been going on, not just in the past 8 years with the economic crisis, but in general, with regards, of course, to the oppression that they have been receiving from the New World Order for many, many years. Because we Greek people are the light of the world. And when Greece basically becomes a great nation again, America then will become a great nation again, and so will the rest of the world for that matter. Okay? And it's not Donald Trump who's going to make America great again. Donald Trump doesn't give a crap about America, Greece, or any other nation. He's there to serve one purpose, and that is to carry out the New World Order. This is John Contreras here, Greek American journalist. Please share this video everywhere. Please upload it to your own YouTube channels. Thank you so much for listening. Take care. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that clip, ladies and gentlemen. And so what I like to do here is give you a brief overview about, basically what's been taking place in Greece in the past, let's say, several months leading up until today. So, the issue is this, that this vicious cycle of the so-called Greek bailout program with the Troika basically has no end. It's just an ongoing vicious cycle where basically, the Greeks, they need a new bailout package, okay? And in this case, everyone's saying that they need a fourth memorandum bailout package, right? But in order for them basically to, get the money from this bailout package, they have to meet some certain prerequisites, okay? And the people that are controlling the bailout, okay, the Troika, which about a year or so ago they tried to do away with this term to sort of mitigate the severity of the criminality of this organization, but it failed, so they've just gone back to the Troika. In other words, last year they started calling the Troika the European partners, but now everyone's just like, screw it, they're called the Troika, which is, again, the European Central Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and the European Community, all right? So, what the Troika tells Greece in this case is, you want more money, you're going to have to basically pledge to implement some new measures, okay? And in the case of Greece, the Troika has something like 114 new prerequisites that they're telling the Greek government that they need to fulfill if they're going to get basically any more aid from them, okay? This is just like utterly insane. Right now they're going through the third evaluation of the third memorandum, okay? And, basically the third evaluation has not been completed yet, alright? And there's still all this prerequisite stuff they need to comply with, alright? And so now there's talk that, this is gonna fail, and then Greece is gonna have to go to like a fourth bailout program, fourth memorandum. And in that instance, basically, they're going to have to go through a whole new list of prerequisites again, over and over again. And it's just another never-ending vicious cycle. Meaning, what the Troika basically wants from Greece is for Greece to basically privatize all of its public assets. Okay? And Greece has pretty much already done this, ladies and gentlemen. They just had to privatize their 14 major airports around Greece. Okay? They are now owned by a German company called Fraport. And Fraport has been in charge for about a year now. A year already, alright? And according to the agreement that basically the Greek government needs to make sure that the airports are well maintained. Well, in the past year, apparently the Greek government hasn't well maintained these airports. And now representatives of Fraport are complaining and saying, well, according to our agreement, Greece, pledged to within 1 year to revamp all these airports, and they haven't done it, so now we're going to sue them for at least 70 million euros. I mean, this is just insane. So, just to give you a brief, overall picture, the reason why the Troika does what it does is not to help any nation. And I've said this many times before. It's to take over nations. This is called conquest, okay? So, this is called divide and conquer. It just plain straight out British conquest. That's all it is. Because this is all being controlled from the crown of England. Okay? And we all know who's in the crown. The Rothschilds, the Oppenheimers, and all these other very powerful Jewish Illuminati bloodline families that are obviously in cahoots years and years and years, for hundreds of years with the British aristocracy. They are the real power in the world. They are the Illuminati. They give their marching orders to all the big, secret society groups out there, the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, the big think tank groups like the Bilderberg Group, and so on and so forth, all right? So, the Rothschilds, by the way, have a huge mansion in Corfu, in the island Corfu, okay? And there they go and they enjoy themselves whenever they want to. It's a paradise that they formed there for themselves at the expense of the Greek people, and it's been there like something like 4 decades. So, the Rothschilds, by the way, have spoken to the Greek media and have talked pretty much openly on how they control the scene there in Greece, economically, politically, and so on and so forth. So, this is pretty much a case of Greece. If they want bailout money, they gotta cut back on salaries, they gotta cut back on pensions, they gotta screw the Greek people even more, okay? And like I said in the previous clip, this was all done, okay, under false pretexts. In other words, this whole bailout program, which has been going on like 8 years, was done under false pretexts, okay? It was a big fraud, a big crime. And now Alexis Tsipras, the Greek Prime Minister, is going to Washington to talk to Trump. And supposedly it's about, how things are going with the Greek program, the Greek bailout program, and stuff like that. Yeah, and he's going to get his marching orders from Trump, and Trump's going to tell him stick to the bailout program, don't even think about, getting out of it. Because again, this is all about taking over Greece, stealing its natural resources and destroying the Greek people, their way of life, their culture, their religion, and so on and so forth, okay? Henry Kissinger formed this policy back in 1974, and there's a quote out there of him saying this to a big club in Washington. This is like September of 1974, where he said the Greeks are very obstinate, stubborn people. They don't obey. So we have to basically strike at the core of basically who they are, their culture, their religion, their language, and this is how we will defeat them. And guess what? This is what's going on today, unfortunately. But I believe the Greek people will wake up. They will kick the Troika out of their country. They will become a great nation again. The same thing will happen in America. And of course, Trump is not the guy to do it because Trump is the enemy. He's part of the New World Order. If you haven't figured that out by now, I don't know what to tell you. If you call yourself anti-New World Order, you still got a lot to learn. That's all I need to tell you. That's all I got to tell you. So, Tsipras, the Greek Prime Minister, is also going there, and this is according to my information from my sources, from Greek journalists and sources from the Greek government, because Trump is going to tell him to bury this whole case that I mentioned in the previous clip, okay, which is called Pythia Vodafone. Pythia Vodafone in Greek. Pythia Vodafone, okay, which has to do with basically the CIA, George Papandreou, the former Greek Prime Minister who led Greece into the crisis period, Israel, and other nations, to take out the former Prime Minister Kostas Karamanlis, okay, to replace him with George Papandreou, and to lead Greece into the situation that it is today. That's it. So, there's a court case going on in the Greek Justice Department. It's reached now the Supreme Court of Greece, where it's at the Greek Court of Appeals, okay? It's pretty much there at the Greek Supreme Court, let's just say. But it's already at a major court and it's being tried, where people that played a key role in this are being tried for high treason. Also, there's a key CIA officer, agent, who's Greek-American, whose name is William B. Basil, who played a huge role in trying to overthrow Kostas Karamanlis' government. This guy is being convicted, basically, for spying on him and, of course, for trying to kill him. Yes, you heard that correctly. They were trying to kill him. But that part now, the Greek Justice Department is receiving pressure to remove that part out of the case. The part about, the CIA wanting to kill the Greek Prime Minister, which they indeed attempted to do. And this is very well documented by a Greek investigator in Greece, in conjunction, of course, with the whole, case and so on and so forth, right?